Hey, this is Chris with Old Liberty Sheds. I'm going to show you how to make a set of double doors on a shed. These doors are 72 inches wide, rough opening, so 72 by 76 and a quarter. 72 wide, 76 and a quarter high. And I'm going to show you how to build these doors step by step with measurements. So hope you enjoy it. Hope this helps you out. These doors right here, 72 inches. So this is a double 3-foot sided door. And I'm going to show you how to make these. Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Chris with Old Liberty Sheds and Structures. It's a little hot out here today. It's the last Saturday in August 2023, and it's a hot one in Virginia. So what we're going to do today is we've been working on this 10 by 12 LP painted shed, and we're going to build the doors today. I'm going to just flip this around and show you where we're going to be building the doors at. So they're going on this shed here. And this is a 72-inch opening this way. And then we're going to be 76 inches up, which is 6'4". We're going to put another 2x4 across here to cover up the bottom of that header. And we're going to be doing a double set of double doors. Those doors will be 72 inches wide. So when they both up, so 2 3-foot doors. And what we're going to be using is 2x4s. So we're going to be using 2x4s. We got the premium ones at Lowe's because we want them as straight as possible. No bows and no twists or anything like that. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record as best as I can, building this for you in steps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the sides, and that's going to be 3 2x4s. And those 2x4s are going to be the actual beginning of the framing for these doors. So our dimensions are going to be, our sides are going to be 72 inches. So the 2x4s we cut at 72 inches. And we're going to work on the fixed door, because one of them is going to be fixed all the time with some spring latches, and the other one's passive, where you can open and close it like it's a single door. So we're going to be cutting 6 72-inch 2x4s, and we're going to be cutting 2 36.5-inch 2x4s and 2 34.25-inch 2x4s. So I'm going to cut those down and let you check that out. Alright, so we're going to measure these out to 72 inches. I like to line them up on the end. Give me my 72-inch mark here. Kind of just verify 72, because you want to make sure your doors are true and as square as possible. Now we'll just lop those off. All right, now what we want to do is we want to screw this 2x4 to this 2x4 in this orientation, kind of like you would do a California corner if you're framing. Okay, and what we're using is T25 decking screws. These are 10-inch head, or I'm sorry, 10mm heads, and they're 3 inches long, and that's what we're going to use to fasten. I use all screws to do the frames of my doors. I feel like they do better than nails. They hold tight and true. Okay, now once it's done, this is what you're going to have. You have a 2x4 that is attached like that. And that's going to be for the side door, where our handle for our doorknob is going to be able to grab hold. The D-style doorknob that we're going to use on the shed. All right, I'm going to go cut the other 34 and sorry. The other parts for the fixed door, which is 36.5. I'm going to cut 2 2x4s at 36.5. Actually, I'm going to cut this one in 2 36.5-inch pieces. All right, now I have my 2 36.5-inch pieces, but what I'm going to want to do is at the end, I want to come down 1.5 inches, and at that 1.5 inch mark, I want to use my speed square and go at a 45 and cut a 45 off the end here. So what I'm going to do is basically just take my speed square, right? I'm going to go down 1.5 inches, which is right there, make a mark. Okay, then I'm going to turn my speed square around using my other hand to hold the camera, and I'm going to put my speed square to that mark, that 1.5 inch mark, and I'm going to make a 45-degree line. Put my finger there, 45-degree line right there, and I'm going to do that to both boards. All right, so the marks will look like that. So I came down 1.5 inches, and then I used my square, went to that 1.5 inch mark, and drew me a 45-degree line there. Okay, because this is automatically a 45 degree. It's a 90-degree square, and half of a 90-degree square is a 45-degree angle. So anyway, I'm going to cut those off, and the reason why these are for is so when our door frames them together and they're opening and closing, these back corners will usually be the ones that want to grab. So what we're doing is we're cutting those off so they won't grab. We are on the side of the highway at our shed lot, so if you hear cars driving by, that's what it is. All right, so it's very important at this stage when we start building it, we automatically figure out what's going to be the passive and what's going to be the fixed door. And what that means is one of these doors is going to have the doorknob on it and lock, and the other one's not. It's going to have spring latches. So if you think of like in your house, you have a double French door. One of them opens all the time and one of them stays shut. But if you got to get a couch through it, you can open both and have a full, 4 foot, 6 foot, whatever opening. So on this particular shed, this side here we're going to have as the passive, and this side here is we're going to have the fixed. The reason why that is because I don't want to have any chance of this doorknob hitting that window. So we're going to have the this one be the passive and this one be the fixed. Okay, so that's very important to know that when you're building these doors. All right, so I'm going to be taking this 36.5 inch and it's going to be attaching to that framing there, and then this other one is going to go down in the end. What I like to do is I like to preset my screws, and I know where they're going. That way they're already there and I can just hit them with the drill. All right, so we're going to put these 2 screws in here, and I just use my hand to kind of hold them level and flush at the ends. Like I said, this is why I like to do my screws. Sometimes these can be a little tricky. Then we give this a little twist here, get it flush, and we'll get this last screw set here. All right, so this is what we're looking for. We got this bottom attached to that leg, this bottom attached to that leg, so I got 4 there, 2 there, that's 6, and the same thing down on this end. It's very important that this 45 is facing up from this 90 degree here. Okay, so we got the flats down here, and that's all screwed in. So that is the frame of our door, and then we're going to be adding another 2x4 across here to here, but we're going to take our measurement from there to there and there to there. So this corner to that corner, we're going to take that measurement in order to get this centerpiece, because this one could be bowing out or coming in, and that would not give us a good measurement. So we want to make sure we take our measurement from this inside corner here to that inside corner. All right, so this portion here, to put the center board in, we just took that measurement from there to there. This is going to be our center board. But what we want to do is we want to center this board in the center of the framing. So the center of this board needs to be centered with the framing. Okay, so we know we cut at 72 inches was our sides, and then the 2.5 inch 2x4s together give you a total of 75 inches. So we want to go half of 75, which class is 37.5, right? 37.5 is our half mark. Now, but we want the center of the 2x4 center. So the width of a 2x4 is 3.5 inches. So from 37.5, we're going to come back 1 3/4 inches. So that'll be 35 3/4 inches. So that's the measurement we want, 35 3/4 inches. And then we're going to be 39 1/4 inches. So we're going to take the same thing, 35 3/4 and 39 1/4, and we're going to make a mark. That's where we're going to center our 2x4. All right, so my center 2x4, I put these these two screws angled and preset, and then I preset 2 screws here because we want this 2x4 to be flush. So like that, right there on those 2 marks, 35 3/4 and 39 1/4. And then right here, we want this 2x4, we want this 2x4 flush right there and screwed in. All right, so we're gonna come over here. We got that side in, we got this side, and we want to keep this flush here. And we're gonna put our screw in. I like to get that one set because if you drill it all the way, then it's gonna pull it that way. So we get this second one going. And now it'll stay centered. We just drive them home. I'll suck it right. Alright, so that's our door frame right there. So now we got plenty of beef to put hinges into. It's nice and stout. It's, you know, it's not too heavy, but it's nice and strong. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our pieces of LP siding and we're going to lay it on top, and we're going to get those situated in the way that they need to go, and then we're going to nail all that LP down and onto our frame. And what the LP siding is going to do is going to add rigidity to our door, because LP siding is also sheathing, so it'll help keep the door rigid and from flexing. And then also we want to take a measurement from there to there, and from there, there to there, and see if this door is square. Okay, so we have 36.5 inches by 75. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator to find out what our measurement from this corner to that corner should be. Okay, so I use CM Pro as my calculator. I would share it with you on here, but I don't know how to do that. So what I did is I put, if you have a CM Pro, I took that measurement from there to there, which is 75 inches. So I put 75-inch run, and then from here to there is 36.5-inch rise. And then you hit the diagonal button and it'll give you 83 7/16 is what our diagonal measurement should be. So if we do 83 7/16 from there to there, that'll make a square. So I'm a little out of square. So I'm 83 5/16 this way and 83 9/16 that way. So I'm an eighth out. So what I'll do is I'll use my sheathing, my LP that I'm going to put on here to square it up, because I know I have a factory edge on 2 sides of my LP, because we're using the LP that we cut out of here. So I know I have a factory edge on 2. So what I'll do is I'll get my top set and I'll use my factory edge down one end, and I'll get my top set where I need to be at the factory edge, and I'll nail that down, and then I will be flush at that corner, and all I have to do is pull the frame in or out, or the LP in or out, and then nail it down, and that'll square up the door. All right, so here's my LP sitting on my frame. Okay, this is going to be the top of my passive door, or my fixed door, and I want this gap. So I want this LP right here. I want this LP to overlap. This LP is going to overlap this 2x4 by 1.25 inches. So I'm going to measure this out 1.25 inches. I'm going to measure that out 1.25 inches, because I know this is a flush cut, and I know this is a flush cut. That's the factory edge, and I'll use it to square up. And what I'm going to attach this with is a construction stapler that shoots staples. They're 16 gauge 1.5 inch staples. All right, so I got this measured out, my overhang, at 1.25 inches. Okay, 1.25 inches, and I got 1.25 inches down there, and I got a staple in that corner and this corner, and I'm going to use this Senko stapler, and I'm going to just go down. This is going to get covered with casing, so I'm not really too concerned with the placement of the staples. But now that the door's stapled, you can see now this is flush right here, but it's out down here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a screw. I don't think I can get it to pull. I guess I can. I'm going to push this, the LP, so it's flush with that, and that's actually going to help rack this frame to square it up. So if you just give this a little push pull here, I need 2 hands and it'll do it. All right, so I pull this flush. Now it's flush all the way down. So this door frame should be square. So I'm gonna go ahead and do perimeter staples all up this side, around that edge, around the back, around the bottom, and then I'm gonna go across the middle, because that's got there, that 2x4 we stuck across the middle is there, and I can have something to nail into. All right, so I also want another 1.25" overhang down here. So I measured from the 2x4 out 1.25". I made a pencil mark, and I made another pencil mark to the exact same thing over here, 1.25". There you go, 1.25". Boom. Okay, then what I do, all right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my chalk box and I'm gonna stick it right on my mark. Okay, make sure I line up on my pencil mark. And I'm gonna bring my chalk box down here. And I'm gonna go right on that mark too. And I'm gonna snap this chalk line. All right, now that that chalk line is snapped, I'm gonna take my circular saw and I'm gonna rip this off. Now this side, since it wasn't a factory cut, it's got a little bit of an overhang here. So I could use my router to flush that off too, but I'm just going to pop a string line. I'm going to find out what this is. I'm going to pop a string line down and use a circular saw to do that as well. So that way I have my LP on my door where it needs to be. Alright, so I got my chalk line snapped. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I got my glasses on. Thank you. And I'm going to rip this down. Very important that you make sure you set the depth of your saw to be the thickness of what you're ripping, which I did, but if you don't and it's all the way down at 1.5" or 2", depending on the size of your saw, you're going to cut into your framing. You don't want to do that. So if you do set your depth, flip it around, you'll be able to rip your line down and not get into your framing. Make sure you blow off all your sawdust. All right, so that is the fixed frame door frame with the LP on it. Still needs to be trimmed. I got to rip the trim down and everything's going to be painted. So I'm going to build the frame for the passive, which is 72 inches as well for the 3 2x6s, but it's 34.25 for the top, where the fixed door was 36.5. So I'm going to build that frame, get it all assembled, and then I'm going to jump back on here when it's time to do trim. All right, so after it's ripped down the table saw, that's our little miter saw hooked up. Once you just rip down the table saw, now you have a 3.5" wide piece of LP trim. Now what we do here, we're gonna apply this to our door, okay? All these blue lines represent where the inside edge of the door is gonna go. And what we're gonna use for the inside edge is the factory bevel. So all those will face in, and the ends will get painted. This whole door is going to get painted white like that shed with the trim as well. But what we want to do is we want to put our blue lines on the door in such a way that now we have everything lined up with all of our overhangs. So on these doors at the bottom, this is the passive door. So this side over here is going to get the doorknob. This is the bottom right here. So we want our trim to be flush with the bottom piece of this LP. So we're going to measure up 3.5 inches, and then we pop a string line. And now over here, we want the side of the door to overlap. So we want this to hang over 1.25" over there. So what I do is I just go ahead and hold my tape measure. You can do the math, or you can just hold the tape measure at 1.25" off, and then mark your 3.5. And do the same thing at that end, pop another string line. This is also going to have 1.25" overhang. So you can take your tape measure, hold it at the 1.25", mark the 3.5, pop the string line all the way up. The top is actually going to go 1 inch higher. So it's actually going to go 1 inch more this way. So basically same thing. I hold the tape measure at 1 inch, to the edge of the LP, mark it at 3.5, pop a string line. Then what's going to happen here is I want to put my sides in, right? I want to put my sides in, so I'm going to measure from this blue line, from that corner to that corner, to that corner, and I'm going to cut those out of the 3.5-inch pieces that I got right there, and I'm going to install them. Once they're in, then I'll be able to measure from this outside edge to that outside edge to get the header piece, the top piece, because we want the top piece to overhang. We want the butt joint, we want the top to hang over and let the side butt joint into the top, and we'll do the same thing down here at the bottom. I'll show you once it's installed. All right, so here is the trim on the door. You can see how it's overhanging the LP Smart side. It's flush with the LP Smart side on the bottom. You got an overhang on this side, and then up at the top as well. Right there. The center, and all the nails, so I'm using a 15 gauge finish gun, and then this is the centerpiece, and so make sure all your nails go into the 2x4 framing. And you remember that 2x4 we installed in the center here is what's going to get this piece. Actually, I'm using the 18 gauge gun because my 15 gauge is messing up. I bought Metabo 15 gauge D-style fasteners, but Metabo uses a plastic film to hold all its nails together. The DeWalt 15 gauge D-style nails do not use that, and so therefore the Metabo nail clogs up the cordless, that right there, the cordless 15 gauge angled nail gun by DeWalt. The Metabo nails, this little strip right here, this plastic strip, kind of clogs up the firing pin, and you got to keep clearing it. So I need to get back to the DeWalt nails. It doesn't do that. But anyway, there is the door. So this is the passive door. Of course, we'll get our hinges on there. Doorknob will go on that side. We're getting ready to trim the stationary door up. This door is all going to get painted white, and we'll show you what that looks like when it's done. All right, so the doors are painted and the trim is on. There's the doors painted up, and these are the hinges. So what I do is I split the barrel basically right down, you know, the middle of the barrel right to the edge of the trim, and then come up from here to there, 2 3/4, and draw you a line, boom, with your speed square, and sink your screws. These are, here you go, these are 8 1 5/8 black deck screws. Same thing here, I centered it on this centerpiece. This is the stationary door or the fixed door. Again, split the barrel. You are going to have to put these screws on a little bit of an angle in order to catch the framing, because of where they are positioned. Same thing over here, 2 3/4 down, draw you a line, split the barrel of the hinge, and go ahead and put your screws in on an angle so they'll catch all that 2x4 framing under there. Alright, so that's it. That's how the doors go together, and then we'll do an installation next. Alright, so I got the first door up. So what I did is there's a piece of trim that I also stuck up, so door casing, that goes next to the door, and those hinges screw through that casing into the framing. I gotta put 2 more screws in there, I know that. Here's this door here, so as it swings open, that's what the framing looks like on the inside of it. The trailer's in the way to get it all the way open. But what I do is I get it to sit on 2 pieces of LP, so that makes it 3/4 of an inch off the floor. And then what I do is I set the first passive door first on 2 blocks of 3/4. I already did this, so that's why they're not in there. And what I do is I take a screw and I stick a screw up through that frame up into the door header. And then with that, I'm able to adjust the screw up or down to get this door plumb with a level. Once that's there, I come in, now the door's being held up and I don't have to worry about it. I come in, I check my gap, and I was going for about a 3/8 gap, which is what I got here. Should. Anyway, we can check it. So I should be around, well, I'm about a 1/2 inch. So I'll live with a 1/2 inch. So yeah, so that is kind of where we are for right now. Door's up, that door's up. We're gonna get ready to install the passive door, the passive door. The fixed door is here. Of course, we'll get the spring latches in. But now that we have that door in, we can set the passive one in place and get the casing on the outside. All right, just finished hanging the doors, and I hope this video helped you out. I'm gonna show you the doors real quick, kind of what they look like inside and out. And again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and I'll answer them for you. Took a little longer than I thought because we had some customers show up at the shed lot today, so it kind of took me away. So it was kind of back and forth a little bit. But anyway, so here's the final product. I'm gonna flip it around. Again, this trailer is in the way, but you can see this will all get painted and touched up. But as you can see, we used the LP for casing across the top and down the side. And that's also where our hinge is screwed in, but that is screwing into the jack stud and the king stud. I also cased the window out. I got to paint that piece, but that's the window casing. Got our little weather drip there, and that's how we do our profile. But anyway, here's the door. Doorknob, so you just push it, and that's how it shuts. So we can, yep, that's it shut and everything. All right, and this one will open all the time. Of course, it's got a key to lock. Again, the trailer's in the way. That's the framing. As you can see, this is why we cut these corners, and I'll show you here in a second when we go ahead inside. That's the framing of the door. So the reason why we cut those corners is because if we didn't, when these two doors open at the same time, because this is the passive door, it's got those spring latches, or the fixed door, it's got those spring latches. When this is opening, turn that. When both of these open together, if we didn't cut those corners, they would hit each other. So that's for clearing, so when we shut the doors at the same time. But that's how the other door opens. And again, that's the framing. So we got that 72-inch 2x4 to 72. The fixed is 36 and a half. 36 and a half. And again, we just came down 1.5 inches, and that to the 45, cut that. These sides are the same, 72 inches. Now this is for a 72-inch rough opening, and 76 from 76 and a quarter from here down. So 6'4" and a quarter. 6'4" work too, 76. The fixed door is 36 and a half inches across, and the passive is 34 and a half. We leave our LP 1.25 inches up, and then the trim is another inch. The LP is flush with the frame of the door, but we have 1.25 inches overhang for the LP trim. Okay, same thing on this side. 1.25 inches, 1 inch. At the bottom, it's 1.25 inches below that 2x4, but the LP siding and the LP trim are the exact same. So both 1.25 inches. Here's another 1.25 inches there for the LP trim. The LP siding is flush cut to the 2x4. The LP siding is flush cut out here to the 2x4. This is 1.25 inches overhang on the passive door, but on the stable door, or the fixed door, LP trim is flush, but we come over 1 inch from the edge here for the trim. That's kind of hard to see because it's all the white, but we come in 1 inch for the trim. So that way, when this is shut, this piece here overlaps it. Okay, so I hope that helped you guys. If you have any questions, again, ask on the bottom. Again, this is the fixed door. And, you know, this just pulls, gives it a tug, that pulls shut, this pulls down, Okay, oops, fingers in the way. This pulls down, that's fixed now. This is going to overlap. Let's go inside, you can see it in here. This pulls and overlaps that. So I just make sure that this shaft is centered on this 2x4 and has enough room to catch this. And I just drill through that with a 1/2-inch spade bit. All right, that's it. I'll talk to you later. Helps you guys out. Have a good night.